Morning. Hey, man. Good morning. Jarmo, Trade, Gian. How are you guys? Morning, everyone. Hell of a move, huh? Hell of a move. Weakness in Spotify and Netflix. Insane strength in Tesla. Happy we got in that one on Friday. God. What's going on? Morning, everybody. No, with market gapping up like this, I don't see anything to do on my end. I did a nice job buying 3 names on Friday, so we'll see what ends up holding up. I bought Toast, TMDX, and Tesla. I didn't actually realize just until now that they are all the letter T's. So I was feeling frisky on the letter T's, apparently. Toast, TMDX, and Tesla. Tesla is obviously a huge standout right now. But I had been in the Discord pounding on the table with Tesla over 291, 292 for about, I don't know, every single day for 2 weeks, just patiently. Right? Maybe not 2 weeks, maybe like 6 or 7 days. Six or seven trading days. Tesla was on my radar. 292, 200 SMA UNR, 428. I put it first on my radar on 428. So effectively every single day for the last few weeks. Yep. Every single day for the last 2 weeks. Since 428. And it's really, really nice to see this thing working. So I don't see a ton to do here. You know, if you're not already positioned in stocks and you think you're just going to go chase fresh setups when the market's up 3%, you know, you're kind of doing it. You're doing it all wrong, in my opinion. There were already clean setups a few days ago. I think the thing to do now, Hood's awesome. That one kind of hurts. I had this thing at 149, $10 lower, basically. Kind of sucks. Really sucks, actually. I'm also in Netflix and Spotify, so not everything is peaches and cream, right? I'm in some names that aren't performing that well this morning. But Netflix, I'm completely trimmed. Spotify is a new position, although I really should have recognized that it was lagging with against Netflix. But it is what it is. On the flip side of that, super reward on Tesla. So you got to kind of take the good with the bad. Yeah, dual from the 50 is extended, but it was an earnings winner. But yeah, man, it's up 50% from its 50 day. It's kind of crazy. when you think about it. But recently, over the last 20 days, it's been moving 5%. Yeah, it's like 10 times its average daily range over the 50. Kind of nuts. LN, it's on my X page. What would I like to see over the next few days in order for us to start looking for new setups? Maybe a fade into the gap. Yeah, I think one of the things that I personally want to see is just the market take a small little breath, right? I mean, it only requires like 3 to 5 days, but then the more important part is I want to continue to see stocks act well, right? Stocks that have tight setups just kind of ignore the market and continue higher on their own. I think that's more important. If the market can just ignore, like if individual names can just kind of ignore what the market's doing, like it's ebbs and flows as the market tightens up, as the market pulls back. Individual stocks that then just move for their own price action and not being correlated to the market. The minute that stocks start to get correlated to the market, the market starts to pull back, it starts to consolidate, and then stocks do nothing or stocks start to pull back. Then obviously that's when you have to be paying attention to the indices. But in the strongest environments, as long as the market is no longer in a downtrend and just kind of ebbing and flowing higher and working its way up over time, then, for instance, recent breakouts, like stuff like in Dave, which is, capping up another, 8 points this afternoon, 9 points, or this morning, afternoon. SEZL, this oddity. So I want to see names just kind of continue, on their own, doing what they were going to do, regardless of the market. Obviously, these names are also getting a little crazy in such a short time. But as long as stocks can continue to act well as they're leaving like really clean pivots, like over time, I'm going to want to see, Uber break over this 86, 87 level into all-time highs, start to make its own run towards 100. It might just require it to go sideways a little bit longer. This is just straight off the bottom. Took a lot of energy to go from 60 to, 86. So just tighten up. And then, with or without the market, it could start to break out. One, because I'm in it, and two, because it'll have a nice setup. Yeah. Well, here's the thing, Steve-O. It's like everybody wants to keep the money that they've made when the environment's really, really good. So the two things that you should be doing if you have open and working positions is improving your worst case scenario, aka raising your stop. And then number two is don't go chasing this gap, right? Don't go giving back. You don't know what the market's going to do here. Does the market just keep ripping? Okay, great. So that's good for your open positions. Or does the market, sell this, sell the news event kind of? And then, if you're piling into too many new positions right up here, you could kind of get caught in that with too many. Like if you go buying like one or two names today, and then the market begins to pull back, do you end up getting stopped out and giving back some of those gains? Plus, you're giving back some unrealized on your old positions. I think the best thing to do in this situation is literally to do nothing. You've been blessed into an awesome gap up. So like on Tesla, I'm not going to go adding to it. You should already be in it. Right? It's like the 291, 292 level was absolutely perfect. So you should already be in that. That 193 level, again, another name that I gave out in the room for Amazon, right? That was perfect. So at this point, chasing makes no sense. The stock market gave plenty of opportunities over the last 10, 12 days to get positioned into names, whether it was Tesla recently, this oddity as an earnings gap up, Hood, Uber, Crowd, MSTR, Palantir. I mean, the list goes on, right? Even the Dave, Sezzle. I mean, Dave and SEZL gave the exact same high volume close setup as oddity. So you just have to study them and have gotten into them when the market gave you the setup. If like now you're like, oh my God, I'm missing the market. It's up 3%. you're operating all wrong, and that's how you get hurt. You already trimmed in hood and TSLO, but something like Bros and Oklo. First of all, I would never be chasing Oklo ever. And it's not even really gapping up, to be honest with you, but I would never be chasing a profitless company ever. They're, in my opinion, this is still, yes, it looks like a bottoming pattern. Can't disagree with that. But they're not one of the 10 best companies in the world. I'm not trying to chase this turd. There are stocks that are acting even better than this. It's not even that I hate Oklo. I only need 10 stocks in my portfolio to be fully long, right? To have all of my money working. So, kind of with that thinking, when I always tell myself that, is this acting like one of the 10 best names, right? I'm looking at some that are acting even better, right? Toast, Oddity, Sezzle, Dave, Palantir, MSTR, Hood, Uber, Tesla, NVIDIA, AVGO. I mean, just, start there. DRS, Zscaler, CrowdStrike, Okta, HIMS, Rubrik. I mean, I just literally rattled off all these names off the top of my head. Carvana, even Boeing, much better companies. Melly, GEV, PODD, Spotify, SE. I don't even know if I can think of any more off the top of my head. So at that point, okay, Roblox. So where does Oklo fit into the damn conversation? Like, where do we put Oklo on the family tree? Apple. I agree. Apple is a great company, but this isn't a great stock. It's not even above the 200. Apple doesn't make the cut. I'm trying to make money in this decade, right? Not next decade. Black Cap. Yeah, like Apple's fine. I love their product. I've got an iPhone. I'm looking at an iMac. I've got an iPad to my left, iMac to my right, an iPhone on my computer. I've got some Beats hanging over on my dresser. Yeah, Baba's cool too. I like Baba more than a bunch of these other stocks as well. Better than an Oklo. So, Jax, it's not that I'm hating on Oklo. It's just that I just named 20 names. Where the hell's there room for Oklo in the portfolio? There isn't. Yeah, I mean, I see the base too. But as a swing trader, I mean, again, you have to differentiate what kind of trader you want to be. I want to be in stocks that I think can go for duration. I don't want to be in stocks that I think can just go for, 3 days and then the move is done, right? I want to be in stocks that have nice clean bases, that are in leading groups, and that have good earnings and sales. Hey, Tomato. So you're having a bit of trouble figuring out how to add to an existing position. Could you please share an example of how you typically do it? Yeah. So the way I would add to an existing position, and this is actually a great question. So is if I own it from lower, like Tesla, right? I bought it on Friday and I'm catching a gift. So I own it in the 292s, right? I'm not going to add to it until I see another setup that I would be comfortable rebuying it, or should I say not rebuying it, buying it as if I never even owned it, right? Until I see a daily setup where I would buy it and be like, oh man, this looks like a really good daily setup, as if I missed the 292 entry. So it might take 2-3 weeks. It might take 2 weeks to be able to add to Tesla. Now, there are times when like things, like if you look at Oddity, right, and you buy the breakout over the $50 base and you buy the first 5-minute opening range break and you're buying something like $53, and then you get the high volume close setup, which we understand, which I put on the list in the room, 61.44. Right? So you buy at 53, you buy at 61.44, boom, beautiful. You just add it to your stock right away. But when something does something like Tesla, then you have to wait a few weeks. So I guess there's a few ways to answer that question. And it really depends where your stock is at, in terms of setups. Like, do I just go adding to Tesla today, like doubling up my position, 20 something dollars higher, almost $30 higher? Hell no. Hell no, right? We don't ruin the average like that. But on a fresh earnings gap up that's coming out of a huge base that, gives us an opening range break and then gives us a high volume close, right? And then the next day we can come in and add through that high volume close. Well, that's a setup I understand. So tomato, just again, like I said, it really depends where your stock is in terms of its where it's at. Jesus, Amazon, what a miss for me. I had this thing watching it at 193 and I just didn't take it. Can't own them all. No, it's I use the leverage sometimes, but I was just watching Amazon at 193. I don't like the leveraged ETF sometimes. You deal with some decay in some of these things. So, they're good when you get that momentum burst, but then after you try to hold them for a while, you're dealing with decay. So I would rather not do that. Obviously it's bullish. Obviously whatever the hell is going on news-wise this morning is pretty bullish, but doesn't make one bit of difference to me. Right? I don't really trade the news. I trade price action in leading stocks, leading groups, and leading sectors. Everything else is just a bunch of noise. Yeah, the problem is China can reduce tariffs it wants on U.S. goods all it wants from 125 to 10. The fact is that we import way more than we export to China. So it's not like we're buying clothes from. It's not like China's buying clothes from us. So it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I look at news when it's earnings. But here's the thing: even earnings don't matter. What matters more is the reaction to those earnings, because I can't move my stock anyway, man. I can't move it at all. The only people who can move my stock are institutions. So as long as it's a good earnings reaction and it's going through a technical setup, I understand. The only thing good earnings do, is add conviction for me to hold it. That's all earnings do. Me reading the actual earnings does nothing. I can't move it anyway. I can't be like, look at the earnings and be like, oh man, that was such good earnings. And then, it's like not moving in the direction that I thought. That's using my brain for way too much work, right? That's me, trying to be some smartass, trying to, like force a stock to go in the direction that I'd hope it would go in. When the reality is I can't move the damn thing anyway. Right? Like if I buy Netflix on an earnings gap up and then it's not going for me, I can't move Netflix anyway, no matter how good I thought the earnings were. So, I can only judge it based on the reaction. But if I bought it right and then it's moving in my favor, well, then all of a sudden I say stuff to myself like, man, those earnings were friggin' good. And then that keeps me patient, right? That just then allows me to trail it on the moving average and let it work. So it's a great question, E40, but that's the way that I view earnings, right? You guys can't move stocks anyway. I mean, unless we're trading like, 1 million, 2 million share low float turds. But otherwise, like, I'm not moving stocks, not the names that I trade. I can't move Tesla. So it makes no difference. But when I get good earnings, and the stock's reacting positively to it, and I take a 5-minute opening range break, and it closes up 3, 4, 5% away from my average on day one, all of a sudden I go, yep, I don't want to sell this thing. This thing had really good earnings. I mean, literally. And if a stock gaps down on earnings and then just stays heavy all day, I don't want to be like, I need to buy this thing. It had good earnings, right? It's like, who gives a shit if it had good earnings? Institutions aren't buying it. So what do I care? Like I'm not here to argue. But if a stock pulls like a Palantir and then pulls into an ascending moving average, maybe there's a low risk spot for me to try it, right? So from a technical perspective, and then it turns up from there, right? Then all of a sudden, the initial reaction might not be as important, like Hood, right? Like Hood. I still loved Hood over 5130. Yeah, Harash, I'll try to explain this as quickly as I possibly can. So my screening process is effectively me looking at 30, 90, 180 day, even 2-month names with relative strength. And then I do my best. And then I have other screeners too that are like super tight, high volume, earnings gappers, within the last 30 days, earnings gap downs. And what I'm really trying to do is I'm really trying to connect the dots in my head as to what groups are getting money and what groups is money leaving from, right? And that's really like what I'm trying to focus on, right? What groups are getting money from institutions and what are stocks doing most recently, right? So are stocks starting to go up? Stocks that had clean setups, are they starting to break out and follow through? Are stocks with good earnings starting to gap up and go? And then and then I'm trying to see, is there a correlation between those names? Like, are those names in, right? So recently cybersecurity stocks have been pretty strong. So I own one of them, CrowdStrike, but you've got CrowdStrike, Zscaler, Rubrik, Okta, Fortinet, Net, right? And PanW, and those stocks have been acting well. So, that's kind of where my brain goes. Okay, these cybersecurity names have been acting well. And then recently it's been, gold's already made a really big move. And recently, gold started to come down, but then how are the other names acting, right? OR, WPM, GFI, AEM, and just really always trying to figure out where's money going, where's money leaving. And that's the most important part to my trading. You want to be on the side where money's going. And so figure out the groups, align yourself with stocks that are in the top 40 groups. And then what will give those stocks duration, like to move for a few quarters, something that would drum up institutional interest is good earnings and sales, right? Institutions will read good earnings and sales from a company like Okta, and then they're not just going to buy it for one day. Sometimes it takes these institutions multiple weeks, quarters to even buy this stock. So it's why we want to focus on, stocks that are above their moving averages. Institutions are just accumulating them, etc. And then when they're in a very good group, they might not just be buying Okta. They're buying Okta, they're buying Crowd, they're buying Fortinet, they're buying Rubrik. And then you say to yourself, oh, wow, these are all cybersecurity names. Well, yes, because institutions are over there accumulating the group and the group's acting well. So now you just have to wait for a technical setup that you understand. And like that's equivalent to like the train pulling into the station, right? Normally stocks are just off to the races and you just need them to pull into the station, slow down, AKA consolidate, maybe pull back into an ascending moving average, and then you hop on the train, right? And then you just let them do the work for you. Marios, good morning, brother. Nice to have you in from Greece. What time is it over there? You're dealing with like 3 o'clock in the afternoon when the market opens, aren't you? Like 3 or 4 o'clock? Whenever you're ready, Marios, we'll get you on stream anyway. If you want to do your own stream, I'll be a listener too. But if you want to hop on stream with me sometime, I'll get you backstage and we'll pull you up anytime you're ready. You just say the word. So I'm sure people here would love to hear your thoughts, man. In fact, I'd like to know what you're thinking too. So whenever you're ready, one of these days, we'll get you on stage and the stage will be yours. Love to hear what you're thinking. But yeah, this market's interesting. Like I said, I personally, and this is maybe where I'd even like to pick Marius's brain. How is he handling, a gap up like this? What's he doing here? My guess is he's already positioned in a couple longs. And you just gotta 430. Yeah, I'm down, man. Whenever you're down, you just my DM. It's always open for you. So you just say the word. We'll find it. We'll find it one of these times. I'll shoot you the link to this chat or to this stream, and I can get you in really easy. So happy to do it. Would love to hear how you handle something like this, right? Does this become an instance where you're peeling a few profits just to allow things to work a little bit longer? Is just this a scenario where you're just kind of taking the whole gift off the table? Or does this create even more patience for you to just hold the whole damn thing and let it work? And again, my assumption is you're already in a couple of stocks just like I am. So, make sure you trim some into strength and then just allow things to work. So a black cap. Marios is a top performer in the United States Investing Championship. Yeah, it should be interesting to see how markets respond to this, right? Like 3% moves for the S&P 500 and 4% moves for the NASDAQ aren't your typical, right? They're not your typical, but it's awesome to see, but it'll also give us a lot of information, right? Does this become a bit of a sell the news event, or does this become somewhat of a, allow leading stocks to just kind of continue on their merry way? Well, only one way to find out. The market open. Yeah, it would be awesome. Yeah, it would be awesome. I would be excited to do a conversation with him, or really, there are some other traders too. I just have never asked them. I got to ask a few more of these bright fellas. I know there's a bunch of them in the FinTwit world. There's Clement's another one. He always pops in here too. I just got to ask any of these guys who put themselves out there to compete in the United States Investing Championship. I got big respect for. Even just putting yourself in a competition like that is not the easiest thing in the world to do. So, but Marios knows I got big respect for him. So whenever he's ready, he'll just say the word, and he's absolutely welcome anytime. Marios could be an actor, dude. He could be a Greek. He could play any one of the awesome Greek roles. Just stick a camera in front of his face. Perfect hair and beard. He could play Chuck Norris. He's the Greek Chuck Norris. Marios one time rubbed two fires together and made a stick. Love it. No, it's good to see him. Honestly, it's good to see him. His interview with the Trader Line was absolutely awesome for anybody who has never listened to it. I would highly suggest everybody listen to it. Tons of education there. So if anybody's serious about learning, you definitely want to watch that. Man, these gap ups in like Zscaler. I had this thing at like 217 as a buy, but right when it got up to 217, I was hoping it would pause for a moment, right? Because it had just come off the bottom. I mean, it was up 30% when it got there. And I was like, nah, I'm going to wait a little bit. And then just, gap up like the most subtle thing the next day. And I was like, all right, didn't really do nothing, but wish it would just pause underneath 217. And then it just friggin' kept going. It's crazy how they do these things, man. They just don't slow down at all. They make it very difficult to get positioned in the market, I tell you. Once it becomes a chase, it's like a train that doesn't stop at the station. Very annoying. But what are you supposed to do? Yeah, PanW looks good. All the cybersecurity names are acting awesome. Again, this one's kind of lagging a little bit because when you think about stocks at their 52-week highs, right? Zscaler acting a little bit better. Okta, acting a little bit better. I don't know if it's 52-week highs, but it looks like it is. Yeah, 52-week highs. Big stage one base. But yeah, I mean, Zscaler is obviously, in my opinion, a bit of a better all-time trender. And this thing was in such an awesome trend before. This is just building on a bigger base. But what are my thoughts on Palantir? I mean, I think it looks fine. Right? I got shaken out in this little last bit. I had like $100 average, call it, just underneath 100. And I was getting sells off in like the 112, 115 area. And then I had some left. But at the time, the 20-day was like at 102. And I impatiently sold the rest of my shares, not wanting to see it basically come all the way back down to my average. And then obviously it took off, back near highs in a couple of days. So something for me to learn from too. But at that point, I only had like a quarter of my share. I had like 2,500 shares. So, wasn't really anything I didn't want to, even from highs to where it went down to, it's quite a bit of money give back, like from where I ended up selling it to. What's my plan for today? Nothing. My plan is literally nothing. Give me a second. Not sure. Yeah, the plan for today is literally nothing. I prefer gap downs like 10 days out of 10 because I mean, other than when I'm already positioned super long in stocks, but I prefer gap downs because then it allows me to gauge relative strength. On gap ups, now you get to know if your stock is still strong or if there's going to be a little bit of relative weakness. But yeah, they are locking out some names, right? Like Zscaler. They're making it very difficult to get positioned. But we'll see what happens.
Oh my god, disgusting.
Palantir, Uber coming down just a touch. Netflix. Clement, you're another one, brother. We got to get you on. We were just talking. I was just talking about you. No, it'd be nice. I always appreciate hearing, people's opinions who put themselves out there for the United States Investing Championship. I mean, I think that's awesome. Whenever you're ready, Clement. By the way, congrats, dude. I see that you're performing well this year, so it's really awesome to see. I know this market hasn't been the easiest, and I'm not sure if you're just long bias or if you also play both sides of the market. If you do play both sides of the market, then obviously, in my opinion, this market, in particular, really even late January, February, March, made it fairly easy on the short side. But if you don't, then even more impressive because, right, it's hard to perform well, long bias only for a good portion of this year so far. The CEG is also interesting. The longer this thing goes sideways, the better, but it's gapped up right through the level that I wanted to see. I mean, 286. My goodness, man. This GEV was another one. The move on earnings and then the turnaround right away. Right through 350, gapped up, pulled back, and then the next day, just the reversal right back through that level. Awesome to see. And now look, you're at 415. I mean, you're a little stone throw away from all-time high at this point. 7%. These are starting to shape up as leaders again. GEV, CEG, VST. What's the other one? PWR. Yeah, this PWR as well. This name has been, if you guys go back on PWR, this chart is such a monster. I mean, look at this thing on the weekly. Oh my goodness. Look at this. Just an absolute monster. 30s to 370, 1,000% move. Took a little while. And it took 4 years, but 4 years for 1,000% on your money, not too bad. Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, Clement, nice job. And you know what? I actually, so like in February and March, I didn't even have any longs open, right? All I had was like names like ESTC, which I'm still short ESTC. GRRR, Rigetti, NOW, AVGO, SMCI, which I'm also still short. I just had 7 shorts, February, March, and into April. And then I started to get knocked out of a few of my shorts, NOW, AVGO, and Rigetti. And then I started to find some really nice longs that were working, with Netflix being my first. Netflix. And then the next day it was Palantir. And then the next day it was Uber and Crowd. And then I was trying to get myself situated in Spotify, and then even Take Two kind of went without me, and TGTX, moved out of a nice little setup without me. And really the market's just been, not bad. So, and we'll end up seeing how the new ones act. On Friday, I ended up buying Tesla, TMDX, and Toasts. So we still got those. We still have Uber. We still have Spotify and Netflix. Those aren't acting too amazing. But Netflix is up well for my average. So I'm in there at 1,019. So really just hanging out with some of these and kind of just letting them work. But we'll see, if names start to move out from these, clear setups and they keep following through, right? I'm going to stop thinking about the market here soon. It won't matter. Yeah, Oddity. Well, Oddity is not a recent IPO, but it built the biggest base at 50, right? So the breakout on that earnings day was good, right? I thought had a really nice 5-minute opening range break around $53. And then the high volume close was even better. I prefer almost high volume closes at this point. They're much more definable setups. Yeah, I'm a little bit weary with Rigetti, but I'm not going to question it until I see those earnings. It's not like I thought, QBTS's earnings were that great. But, really nice reaction on big volume. So I always joke, there are strippers out there who make more than some of these companies. So how do I define a high volume close, Sam? Exactly what it sounds like, brother. Look at the daily and then compare the volume that day to, the other volume that you've seen for the last few weeks or months. Right? Is it high volume in comparison for the last quarter, even the highest volume of the year, highest volume of the quarter, highest volume of the month, right? You want to see some massive volume coming in particular on earnings, right? Because that's not traders like me and you, that's institutions. And then use that close. Yeah, I saw Shop EP. They're getting moved into the, NASDAQ 100 or something like that? Yeah, very nice. I'll just let this thing shape up. I wanted it over 100, but, a gap up like this isn't one that I'll personally chase. I don't want to chase gap ups today with the market up 3.5%. Right? It could go on to work, but I've got plenty of longs already. I'm not going to chase the stock up 13%. Yeah, he's right. Yeah, Pradeep is right. Delayed reactions have been working much better. App over 360 looks pretty interesting. But I'm not looking to buy stocks today. I don't need to buy any stocks, right? I just bought 3 on Friday. I still have Spotify. I still have Uber. I still have CrowdStrike. Right? I've got plenty of longs. I don't need to own more longs. I just need to see how they act. Buying gap ups like this isn't in my wheelhouse per se. Friday was a great day to buy stocks. You had 2 nice earnings gappers in Toast and TMDX. You had Tesla breaking back through the 200. I mean, everybody and their mother in this chat should own Tesla. Honestly, everybody should own Tesla. It was a break back through the 200 simple moving average after flagging up. I mean, I've literally had this thing on the radar, mention it every single day in the room since the 28th. You didn't like the close? What was wrong with the close? I mean, Tesla at that point closed green 5%, 4.7%. Gabo, what didn't you like about the close? It was up almost 5% on the day. How much more did you want? Oh, you didn't like the close on TMDX? Yeah, I didn't either, but my stop was in the 110s. So my stop was low of day. And because I had such nice cushion on Tesla, I just left it, right? I just left it. You cut Tesla Friday? Oh, no. Oh. Well, it's a lesson learned. Hopefully it doesn't run away without you, and don't chase it. Do not chase. I mean, I think it's okay for some people to be 40 to 80% exposed at this point. I mean, the market has given us so many setups. The market has given Palantir, Uber, Zscaler, Okta, Hood, Tesla, Netflix, Oddity, Sezzle, Dave. I mean, the market is literally given 10, 12 names. I mean, at that point, you could have 40 to 80%. I know some people who are fully exposed already. I think that's a little crazy at this point. I mean, even DRS was really good. Rubric has been really good. SE's been really good back through the 50. HIMS has been pretty damn good. So it's like, I could see it really easy that people have, 50, 60, 70, 80% exposure already. Yeah, Spotify's looking a little bit weak. So I've got my stop on Spotify. Spotify's been acting a little bit weak. And then obviously Netflix a little bit weak this morning as well. So if you want to get a bit more familiar with my trading style, I've got a couple interviews on there. Or you could also see some of the so like I got an interview with Investors Underground. That's a really good one. There'll be another coming here in the future with Words of Wisdom. So hopefully, as time goes on, there'll be a bit more content. If you really felt like you wanted to learn, then, you could always be in my room, but it's not for everybody. Depends where you are in your journey. But anyway, guys, I got to get ready for the other stream. Thank you guys for being here. I can't believe there's even 2,500 of you people in here. I love it. Thank you guys. Good morning. Good Monday. Hopefully everybody had an awesome Mother's Day. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Victor, the link is on my page, man. It's on my Twitter. But also, if you guys follow along on YouTube, I tend to post these as well for any of you guys that want to catch up on them. So Real Simple Ariel, right on YouTube, or my name. So I will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning, 7:30, same time Central, 8:30 Eastern. And I will see you guys in about 23 hours. Enjoy the rest of your day. Yes, my love.